Yes, I'm unsure if we could get a hotter take of the Brownlow Medal. I don't think there is one. We need to get this right out in the open as quick as possible, Dan Const. You're here with Mark Reddings, Will Schofield, Shelter FootyCast. We've got Jats Crackers on hand. It is absolutely all happening. Mark Reddings has worn his tracky pants in. How good is it?
Scully, great to be here. Look, I'm a bit disappointed because my feeling was that you and the boys were going to be tuxed up tonight, but you've just all got too hard, did it?
You should, yeah, it absolutely did. Look, I don't know how much more time I can spend with you in one day, Mark Reddings. I've called 2 games of footy. Now we've got the podcast on. Paddy Cripps wins the Brownlow. How good?
It's an amazing result. You did tip that today. Yep. I can say that with certainty.
Thank you.
But what I couldn't say with certainty is what was going to happen in the last couple of rounds, because it was so tight and it took Paddy until the last game of the season to get across the line, in essence, or the second last game. Sydney and St Kilda played just after them, but 3 votes against Collingwood gets him across the line in what was a dramatic finish. Miller didn't poll in the last round. Of course, Lachie Neale got 1 vote, but wow, it was a fascinating count, and the midfielders, again, dominating, as we expected.
We're going to get through the Brownlow Medal a little bit later on. You're on the Shelter FootyCast live from BackChat Studios. That's the Southern River Band, the boys out of Thornley. We do this every Monday and Thursday, a preview, a review if you've just joined us. A bit of a West Australian theme, fitting. Patrick Cripps, a West Australian boy, wins the Brownlow. You can find us on socials, Shelter FootyCast on Instagram. If you want to send us an email, footycast@shelterbrewing.com.au. You can find us over at shelterbrewing.com.au. Follow our beer, and then you'll find the podcast. You can watch us on YouTube. Listen to us on a podcast. Shelter, born and brewed in Busselton. The boys down there doing a great job. Now, let's get into some big moments of the round. Let's start with, look, it's grand final week. The Brownlows just happened, but the grand final is locked in. Geelong play Sydney for the first time
Ever.
Which is astounding, because I think that includes South Melbourne.
Yeah, of course it does, yeah.
So 1897, I think they were both initiation teams, if I'm not mistaken as well.
Correct.
That's correct, isn't it? How have they not played in a grand final?
Yeah,
it's 130 years.
It is interesting, isn't it? And it was, what a contrast in preliminary finals as well. Just the Friday night training run for the Cats against Brisbane, who were very disappointing. And on Saturday afternoon, we sat and commentated what turned out to be an epic between the Swans and the Pies.
Are you happy? I know you thought maybe the best spectacle, maybe Geelong Collingwood. You didn't want a Brisbane Sydney grand final. Have we met in the middle somewhere? Maybe the two best teams make the grand final?
Oh, definitely the best side of the year, Geelong. I think that's locked and loaded. I think we both agree on that. And Sydney, what amazing. Look, they've done a terrific job back half of the season, and their best has been very good, but also conversely, when they've been vulnerable, the teams have even on the weekend, Collingwood stormed home to almost take them out. But, yeah, they showed some resilience. And, look, I think it's going to be an interesting contrast between, it might be described as the old Bucks and the young up-and-comers. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. But, yeah, I think Sydney deserve to be there. They absolutely do.
Let's get into the West Coast and Freo wrap. There's not a whole lot to get through. We both called the Peel Thunder game today. They were in I don't know what sort of final it is. Is that weird?
First semi-final.
Well, there you go. It's an elimination final for mine. They play Claremont at Claremont Oval. We watched Claremont play the week before. Peel Thunder come in. They've got 12 Freo listed players. They've got 10 or so Peel Thunder players. They don't show up, really. I mean, they couldn't have played much worse. Not much credit for the Freo-listed guys. Nathan Wilson was probably the best of the lot.
He was very good. Bear in mind, Sam Sturt had a bit of a hamstring. Nigel Hickick 3 the week before. He's signed a new contract, to my understanding, with the Dockers.
Sturt?
Yeah.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so he's in. Nathan Wilson's got a 1-year deal, locked and loaded. And there was no Taberner because he didn't qualify.
Meek played, who's rumoured to have requested the footy club. I don't think that's official yet, but I did hear, just from a little sneaky squirrel, that he has requested a trade away from the footy club.
Well, that's a few numbers now, isn't it?
Yep, so it'll be close to 5, and Liam Henry, who's... he's getting interest from other clubs. He's contracted and won't ask for a trade, but other clubs are interested given the fact he hasn't played every game this year. So they got 5 or 6 potentially on the way out. I wrote an article for Code Sports. I really, look, I've been bouncing around a little bit. Luke Jackson, great player coming in. I really fear that this band of players in Tucker, Lobb, Logue, Meek, Akers, these guys are role players, and they're and one of them fine, 2 of them okay, but to lose 5 or 6, that's a band across the footy club that you can't just replace. You can't lose 6 in the same sort of ilk and then replace 6 of the same. So I'm a little bit concerned for Fremantle as a whole with those 6 players maybe on the way out.
Do you think that's directly, well, not all of them, but partly attributable to the Jackson deal that's going to have to happen?
Well, Fremantle have committed to this halfway through the season. From what I understand, Freo players were, at least a couple of those players were pretty happy to sign on at the rates that they were getting this year.
Not Lob, of course.
No, not Lob, but others in that band. You can do your own, draw your own lines there. But I believe Fremantle weren't able to offer them something, even market rate, which means they're trying to save money in the salary cap to get a big player in. So I think they're fully in on that. West Coast interest is real, but West Coast won't land Luke Jackson. Fremantle will, and they're going to move a bunch of players out to make it happen. It's on the players as well. If the players want success or money, I think that is a real discussion and an argument you can have. I understand more than most that footy's a short-term business, and it is a business. You got to look after yourself and your family, and I'm all for player movement. Of course I am. But also, I do know at the end of your career, there's not many people that sit around thinking, geez, I wish I had made another couple $100,000 if you don't end up with success. If you get success, you're happy. If you don't, I think you're thinking, what if, more than if you don't. Yeah, that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, there's talk and the Dockers, as you'd expect, coming out. We've discussed this already about Peter Bell, and we spoke to Simon Garlick on radio about denying Rory Lobb a trade because he's contracted, etc.
That's all.
Purely, they're just trying to get,
in
my opinion, better numbers, better draft picks.
As they should.
Absolutely. It's an obvious and a completely understandable way to approach this. And he's had the best thing that's happened here is that Rory Lobb's had his best season in the AFL.
Josh Carr's on the way out. He'll be at Port Adelaide. That's been made official. Joel Corey will become the new midfield coach at Fremantle. That's a decent loss. I mean, good coaches, and by all reports, he is a good coach. They're hard to come by, so that'll be another one out the door. Look, I'm not saying anything that there's anything wrong with the Dockers or that there's cultural issues, nothing like that, but you got to look at it for what it is. After a great season, 17 wins, they win a final. You've got a band of people leaving the footy club. I just don't think that's a positive thing. I can't put a positive spin on that. I'm sorry, I can't.
Well, Simon Garlick did when we asked him about the exodus, and he said, "Well, we've re-signed 10 players this year." So
has every other club has.
So they're all accounts, they're a happy camp. So
okay,
that
good.
But it's I think you're right. It's down to a financial. It's down to a business, and what we think is teams sticking together and taking salary pay cuts to get that success. That might be a romantic vision of the past, Scully, as opposed to the reality of what we're in 2022 and beyond.
Now, you're on the Shelter FootyCast with Will Schofield, Mark Reddings. We're going to roll this into a Brownlow preview.
Even a review would be good.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mark Reddings. Lucky you're here, mate. I don't know what I'd do without you. I just want to roll this in. We've done a lot of Freo there. West Coast update. Josh Kennedy takes out the Brownlow for the West Coast Eagles with 6 votes. You're on the Shelter FootyCast. Mark Reddings, Will Schofield. Yes, that's right. Josh Kennedy takes it out for the West Coast Eagles. The lowest tally by West Coast since in the AFL era, before VFL, of course, ended. West Coast Eagles 2022, 15-team votes this season. Melbourne in 13 had 16 votes. GWS in 13 had 17. That was an initiation club, I believe. Brisbane in 2016. Fitzroy in 1996 had 20. So that's not a good thing for the West Coast Eagles.
Well, the fact that Josh, obviously, was 2 bags. Was it Essendon and Adelaide that he got his 6 votes? So, that's a pretty scary number. Look, it's only votes in a Brownlow, but indicative that Josh Kennedy, leading goal kicker for the season and the leading Brownlow medal voter for the year. So that's not a great sign for West Coast after what's been a horrible year.
At least he's left on a high. Now, Paddy Cripps takes it out in a real nail-biter of it. In recent memory, there's been some big wins. So this one, Cripps had to come from behind in the last game of the year, effectively, with 3 votes to get it done. He beats Lockie Neal on 28 votes. Took Miller on 27. And Fremantle's very own Andy Brayshaw on 25. That's your top 4. Paddy Cripps, the first or next Brownlow medalist since Chris Judd at Carlton.
Going back a decade or more.
Yeah, so I mean, it's. He spoke really well after the Brownlow. I come away feeling pretty happy for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I do as well. 3 votes in that last game of the season. He also picked up 3 votes in a 5-goal loss to the Crows. So there's always going to be breaking down votes and why and wherefores. The big talking point, if you're going to try and bring down Paddy's moment, which I don't really want to do because...
I can if you want.
No, we don't want to spoil his moment, but a lot of people will look back on that incident involving Callum Archie at the Gabba. He left the ground. Archie was knocked out. We went to the tribunal. He lost his match review finding, or the finding by the tribunal, went and appealed, brought in
like
the Silks.
Supreme Court or something like that.
The Silks came in at the appeal. And
the Whigs.
And they came in and gave it a really good spin, and Paddy gets off. I think he was very lucky to get off myself.
What's more? I asked you the question before. What's more controversial? The chat we're having now, and so he takes it and challenges it, and there was a lot of legal jargon, and he wins the Brownlow, or the 1 week remains, he still wins the Brownlow, and we're talking about should he have got off?
The runner up gets the chocolates.
That would be more controversial.
That is worse because everyone in the room feels bad, including the winner who knows he didn't get top votes and then ends up with it. Look, end of the day, Callum Archie, by the way, he didn't just miss that next week. He missed a couple of weeks of footy with concussion. So, done, dusted, but I can tell you now there will be some chatter about that tribunal decision.
There will be, but I think the vast majority of the AFL world doesn't want to see someone get rubbed out if it's in a footy incident, right? If Paddy Cripps had to whack someone behind Archie behind the play,
agree.
People would be carrying on. But in a footy incident, look, you've heard me say it many times on this show and others. Things happen on the footy field, and Paddy Cripps didn't mean to knock him out, and he ends up getting off, and that's what happened. So I think everyone would be more comfortable with him getting off and being able to win the Brownlow medal.
Yeah, I agree. And look, he left the ground. Look, if you were to go and put that in another case and someone got a week, you wouldn't argue with it either. But in this situation, the way it's panned out, absolutely, I agree with you. There wasn't... If the game is so quick, it was a split-second move. Should he have been suspended? I think so. The fact he got off, kudos to him, and I wouldn't want that to be just a slight on this Brownlow at all.
How are those Jats crackers going down, Skeety? You got them
I
right
got
next
to hear for the last bit of it, but they go well, and particularly grand final week.
I got to remember. I got to say, I did go down to the shops, get the dip, get the chips, and I was walking out, and I thought, I don't have the Jats crackers. I better get them. I know Skeet's coming around. A little bit less salty than I remember them. I haven't tried the Jats for a little while now.
Do you like them?
Well, like I said, I thought maybe lacking a little bit of flavour, but that's okay. I know you like them, so that's why they're here.
Barbecue shapes are pretty handy as well.
Okay. A couple of other highlights from the night. Mark of the year goes to Mitch Georgiades, another West Australian.
And, of course, mate, he's been in WA. I had a bit of a whisper that he might have had contact with the West Coast Eagles. So,
chat.
Yeah, just with the Junior Rioli situation.
Yep.
So, at West Coast, would you be comfortable Junior goes, Mitch comes in? Would you be happy just on face value for a swap of that description?
If that was, I think West Coast wins that. I think that's a win to West Coast. Junior Rioli, 28 years old, 27, 28 years old. West Coast are going to need to, look, if they don't rebuild, they're certainly restructuring their team. He's a young player, looks like he can play. I think West Coast win that just by age.
Sure.
Maybe Junior has greater upside, at his very, very best, a higher ceiling. But I think probably over the journey, Georgiades would be a more consistent player.
Maybe you could send another player to Port as part of the deal.
Anyone?
Well, I'm just saying, there's obviously going to be some delistings, and whether that, there's a player there they might...
Okay.
Anyway, that's all up for discussion. But Georgiades took that mark at Optus Stadium.
A ruckman wins goal of the year, Sam Draper. I like that a lot. And probably my favourite moment of the night, I think who really won the Brownlow medal were Aaron Norton's, another WA boy. It was his sunglasses they made the night. They made it onto Marcus Bontempelli. I saw Tom Liberatore wearing them. I saw
Charlie Cameron wearing them.
Charlie Cameron was wearing them. That is correct. There was some other, I think the Melbourne team had them for a little while. So that's outstanding stuff from Aaron Norton. I'm a very, very big fan. So there you go. Paddy Cripps wins the Brownlow. Congratulations, a big win. Let's get into the 2 prelim final games. Geelong defeat Brisbane by 71 points. Is that how much they won by?
It's an absolute walloping.
Wow,
It's a bit reminiscent of, dare I say it, 18 when the game was... Although your game against Melbourne in 18 was over at half-time.
Well, they did not score a goal, Melbourne.
So, therefore, this match wasn't quite the same, but it just, after half-time, it was a case of... it was a stress-free evening for Cats fans.
They started a little bit fumbly for 5 minutes, but you can almost... forgive them a little bit for that, but as soon as they found their groove, they looked outstanding. Patrick Dangerfield was very good. Geelong advanced to their 20th grand final, chasing their 10th premiership ever. So they've been a really successful side. They haven't won a flag since 2011, so it's been a little bit of a drought. But since 2011, I think they might have missed finals once, and if they didn't miss finals, like they've been in prelims and lost grand finals and taking it right up to... They've been there for 10 years.
But you can't win a grand final. People have knocked them. And I think we've all said, they're getting old and why are they trying to push down this path of recycled players. But you can't win a GF if you don't make the top 8 or top 4.
Yep.
And that's what they've done consistently, which has given them a chance. And Chris Scott, if he's to get across the line this Saturday, I mean, first year as coach down at the Cats, I think it was, gets a premiership in 11 off the top of my head. And then... more than a decade later, does it once more. I mean, winning 2 flags that far apart, 2 flags full stop, hopefully it silences some of the critics, because there have been many in the last few years with their poor finals form.
We'll get to speak about Geelong next week as we preview the grand final and review it as well. But where does Brisbane lie after a performance like that, after another final series that... not out in straight sets this time around. They win a couple of finals this year. But
you make a good point. They won a couple of finals. And that, I know they fall again at the prelim final stage, but to get back against Richmond, put it this way, if that Tom Lynch goal is declared a goal, that's when the heat goes on Fagan and Co and the team as a group, as a collective.
But they beat Melbourne.
But they get through that game. They beat Melbourne. So I still give them a tick this year. I really do. I thought they were... that second half was terrible, and that's the memory you're going to have of them. But they're going to be, I think, a team to, keep your eye on. They've got Marcus Ashcroft's son, who starred
he's meant to be
on
best
Friday.
in the country.
Yes. And so that's going to be a father-son selection that's going to automatically make them better, I think, even in the short term, which sounds...
like a Dacos type thing at Collingwood.
Absolutely. I think he's going to be that good. So, that's Brisbane moving forward. They're going to lose McStay. They might lose a couple of players along the way in the off-season. I'm not still convinced that guys like Danaher, big finals, Hipwood was good against Melbourne, but if they're the two taking you into the next realm, I'm just not sure they're as reliable as some other combos in the competition.
Yeah, you do look around though, and key forwards are hard to come by. So you look at Fremantle and say, they're screaming out for this great big key forward, but I don't know where they are. Of course, Geelong has a great duo. Carlton has a great duo.
Richmond has had one through Revolt and Lynch.
West Coast have had Darling and Kennedy, but Kennedy moves on now. So I don't know. Footy may be moving a tiny bit away from there. Tom Hawkins has a big day, 4 goals, 3. Paddy Dangerfield looked terrific. Some have said the best he's looked in years. Kicks 2 goals, 28 touches. He's desperate for a flag. He came from Adelaide to Geelong to win a premiership. He said that openly. Of course, he's come home to be closer to family and all of that. But the move was for success, and they have had success, just not the ultimate success. And he's had a glorified career. He's won a Brownlow. He's won Best and Fairest. He's won All Australians. He's done everything that you need to do, other than win a flag. How much does he want it?
Oh, I just think we saw it in the prelim final. Saw it early on. He's a man on a mission, no question about that.
One thing I did want to bring up, Max Holmes.
Yeah, I was about to say that, yes. The heartache or the potential.
Mate, he's done his hammy.
Neural awareness, is that what it's called?
I don't cop it. I don't cop that. And, okay, I'm sure if Chris Scott listens to this, which he absolutely will not, well, he certainly will be, a very popular show here at the Shelter FootyCast, I would rather them just say... we're waiting on scans than running this neural hamstring stuff, because if he's had it before, that's fine.
You're coach,
I'm not Max Holmes.
Even it's neural awareness. Are you?
What happens if he has neural awareness in the first quarter of a grand final? Are you playing him?
No, exactly. That's exactly right. And your heart. Look, it's a very tough call for the young kid.
He will have to on the Friday
go full tilt.
He'll have to play a quarter of footy. He'll have to not just one stride down the side of the ground. He'll have to be in full match sim. He'll have to be going through tackles to change the direction. He'll get to top speed. They do numerous tests there, but he'll have to do it more than usual. Like, he'll have to really prove himself that I have no issues with the hamstring, with my back, nothing going on. It kills me. I hate seeing players miss games. I can't see him playing. I would be very, very surprised.
Yeah, and there's a star Swan we'll talk about shortly in the same boat. But yeah, that is a Parfitt or Menegola. Probably Parfitt's a like-for-like replacement. We'll discuss
Does O'Connor,
he's a medi-sub.
Yeah, and he's played a big part in this team over the last couple of years. So
I'll leave him medi-sub because Parfitt is the natural, isn't he?
Bit of pace.
Yeah.
Bit of ball use.
And he was pretty good this year, I thought. Before we get to some of those numbers, Mitch Robinson. I didn't know about this until
Little clip
along the way. What was it?
So, look, it was a bit of a strange one. He retired. He played in the first final at the Gabba.
Yep.
Against Richmond, and they won. And he was interviewed by Channel 7, and he was sort of speaking about how it was his last game at the Gabba. So he was hinting that it might be his last year, but then he was dropped for the Melbourne game, didn't play in the prelim either. And basically said on Instagram he was disappointed that Fags didn't give him the opportunity to speak to the people directly. Now, the way I read that is Fags has said to him, look, if we win this and we're playing in a grand final, I can't have you retiring before the prelim final. If we have 3 injuries, he was in the team 2 weeks prior. I would think, not knowing anything about that football club, that Fags has said, look, you can't retire because we might need you. Right?
Unless on that night after that Richmond game.
No, because it was always going to be his last game at the Gabba. He was
what I'm saying.
upset.
Could that have been a bit like the David Mundy situation where...
You're not doing that in an elimination final, saying, we'll give you one more.
No, but I'm saying his last game at the Gabba, and at least goodbye to the fans at the Gabba. I don't know. I'm not sure what his intentions were, but...
he was a bit upset about it.
Okay.
Look, that's how it goes sometimes. I still haven't had my lap of... bloody recognition.
I didn't have a lap of honour at Channel 9 or Channel 7, but that's okay.
Do they do those? Do they chuck you in a car and chuck you around the office?
No, they chuck you through the security and say goodbye. No, it's
put your fob in. A couple of bitter old men sitting on the chairs here at the Shelter FootyCast. That's that game done and dusted. Geelong advanced to the grand final. Sydney defeat Collingwood by a point. This is one of the great games. It'll be one of the great prelims of all time. We will look back at this in 10, 20 years and say, remember when we sat in the 6PR studios and called this one, was screaming at the TV screens, and I was telling you that Collingwood were coming back, and you said they were no chance multiple times.
And they weren't. They didn't win.
Yeah, come on, Skeet.
No, it was great. And to be fair, I think Lee Spur actually was the person.
Yeah, but we're not going to give him credit.
No, because he can't spell Collingwood. So we'll leave it at the fact that he did call it early. Spurry, God bless him. Yes. We love him. But it was an amazing game because Sydney just dominated that first half. It looked as if Collingwood were competitive. Don't get me wrong. And you kept saying they're in this game. They're in this game, but they just couldn't stop the flow of goals for Sydney, which, at that rate, I said they're going to kick 22 goals in the game, which clearly wasn't the case.
They had to stem the flow. They couldn't just keep going goal for goal and maintain that 4-goal head start. So they had to really tighten up their defence and stop the turnovers. Look, the way Collingwood play, I haven't seen many teams play like this. They from the first quarter, there was no wide footy. It was get the ball, get it inside. Take the risks, and there was turnovers, and there was goals because of course there was. But the risk reward with this footy is what you see late in the game. Sydney gets tired, can't force the turnovers, and they've just got waves of people running through the middle of the ground. So, it's been a pretty incredible ride for Collingwood fans and people watching that aren't fans of Collingwood. And I think they've earned a lot of respect from people. But Sydney get the job done. I know. You said at the start of the show that Sydney sort of fell away a bit towards the back end of the game. I do think they were in a pretty tough position. They were up by 4 goals in the last quarter,
which is comfortable but not comfortable.
Yeah, and you can't play the way you want to play because you have to be defensive. You can't take it on through the middle because one mistake, Collingwood was just going. So you have to be really conservative. And then Collingwood...
That invites...
Yeah, and what do? You sit back and say, you should just be aggressive and keep scoring. That's fine. But it makes it harder to defend against if you do that. So,
but mentally, when it comes to your conscience, you're thinking, okay, we've got that 4-goal buffer. So your immediate thought to get to a grand final is, how do we preserve this lead?
Yeah, it's not like let's kick 2 more to win by 6. You're just trying to win.
Exactly.
So they do go and win. So I'm quite positive about it. I think, yes, they get eaten away by Collingwood, but so did bloody everyone this year. That's how Collingwood play. So I think they'll be really happy to go and win a prelim and beat a good side in Collingwood. They advance against Geelong. The last prelim at the SCG was 1996. We spoke about this last time. Tony Lockett kicking a score after the siren to get them through. So similar scenes.
2 points cumulative for Sydney in 96. That year, of course, they went on to play North Melbourne, got beaten in the GF, but they've got another tough task this Saturday. Max Holmes in one corner, Sam Reid in the other. Sam Reid, to me, he's as doubtful as what Max Holmes is, I would have thought.
Well, he's had a history of soft tissue injuries, which is a bad sign. I mentioned to you on the night I saw him singing the song, and he was really
downcast.
Yeah, it was. I think as a player, you do know if it's 1 week or it's a 4 weeker. Either one of those is bad news for Sam Reid. Look, you can wake up some mornings and it all comes good, but I think generally you do know as a player, and he just looked really flat and such a great moment for his footy club, and of course he's happy for everyone, but you can look into how people are, and I don't think we'll see Sam Reid in the grand final, which is really disappointing. I played footy with his brother Ben Reid. He's a Vic Country lad, so and by all reports a really good guy, good footy person.
So who comes in? I mean, look, just before, is it Amadi?
Yeah, so it was Joel Amadi who was doing a warm-up. There's another name that I can't think of.
I mean, Laddams would have been possibly in the mix, but he's been suspended. He's no hope.
Oh, he did too.
He got suspended in the VFL. So it
was on Woe Woden, I believe.
Yeah, Taj Woe Woden. So he's given himself no chance of playing in the GF. So, look, that all has to play out, and we'll discuss that with our grand final preview. But it's a magnificent performance by Collingwood, 17th last year, get to a prelim final. It is the greatest turnaround in AFL, which is, of course, not that old, but it's a great turnaround from this club.
There was some things that Collingwood got wrong that really set this game apart. They didn't start well, right? So they lose 4 goals at the start of the game, and you can't make that up. Yes, I know it's a 1-point game at the end of the game, but they started 4 goals behind. They played Braden Maynard on Lance Franklin, which I think they'll look back and they'll regret. Once they did eventually make the move to a Murphy and a Moore combination, not only did Darcy Moore start beating Buddy one-on-one, but it just got him involved in the play.
Oh, but Darcy was terrific, wasn't he?
He's one of your best players. I do understand, because I've played with a player like Darcy Moore and Jeremy McGovern, the temptation to play them on a lesser like and
exploit them.
So maybe roll off and get involved and have a lockdown like a Schofield, play on the better player. But quite often, McGovern is one of those guys. If you put a challenge to him and say, hey, play on this good player, they actually rise. So I think they probably went a little bit safe with Darcy Moore. They should have put him on Franklin at a start, because Buddy started the game on fire. He kicked 2 goals and 6 marks starting the second quarter.
Yeah, and Braden Maynard, he had a bit of a stinker, to be honest with you, early on, and he was giving away free kicks, and he was not the right matchup. And Buddy was taking marks overhead, which is not his go-to.
Is it because Maynard's 187 centimetres? He's not, Maynard's second in their best and fairest last year. He's had a good player. Was he All-Australian this year? No. Am I wrong? Charlie, you're out the back there. You tell me. Was he All-Australian this year?
He was in the talk. He was in the mix. I know that.
Well, he's been very good, but he didn't have his best night.
No, he didn't. And he had a couple of moments. But he was rubbing the oil off Buddy's arms. Now, talking about poking the bear.
Well, Buddy, he was All-Australian, wasn't he? Yeah, Maynard was All-Australian.
Starting in the starting side.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. So he's had a cracking year.
Yeah, I was skating skull going. But in fairness, we both have no idea. Lance Franklin oils more than anyone in the league.
Why?
So, because it's hard to body him up in contests. Yeah, you slip off him. So as soon as I saw him doing that, you blokes laughed at me, but I was like, he's rubbing the oil off his arms, because he was rubbing it and wiping it on himself, because it's like an eel. Yeah, yes, it's like an eel. Buddy the eel. That's very good. They go and win. Papu was very good. He kicks 3 goals.
He's a little cheeky character, isn't he?
You'd love to have him on your team.
He chirps away, and he went and got stuck into... he gave it the old Luke Parker, the turtle, a few times. He's going to be interesting to see him and Buddy. It's going to be terrific.
Yeah, it's a good game. Sydney play Geelong, grand final, MCG. Tickets will be a premium.
And you got a few up your sleeve, I think,
Well,
Scully.
I think you're off. No, none of that, mate. No, absolutely not. Just be in the Gold Coast for Ryan Davis' wedding while you will be enjoying yourself at the grand final. You might have to do a bit of a live cross from the MCG back here to Shelter FootyCast.
No, I'll be on the shelters for about 9 o'clock in the morning, I reckon. I'll be talking Swahili by the first bounce.
Very good. Shelter FootyCast, Will Schofield, Mark Reddings. A little bit go to finish off after this. Look, we weren't going to give this away this week, but I thought it's got to be fitting. We usually give it to a West Coast player or a Freo player, but
A West Australian player even.
yes, it's got to be a West Australian player. And as much as I'd love to give it to Mitch Georgiadis, I'm going to give it to Paddy Cripps with the Brownlow. I reckon he'll get a few free things this week. What do you think you get with the Brownlow? There'll be some endorsement deals, wouldn't there?
Gee whiz, you're right. I mean, I don't know. Who's the most recent example here from W? I mean, Nat Fyfe has obviously done it a couple of times. Matty Prittis, not the sort of bloke that would exploit that sort of stuff, was he?
Fyfe seems like he may have some good corporate partnerships.
Yeah, I just think would Paddy. Yeah, Paddy, he'd drink it. I think he'd drink beer, shelter, and
he's from Northampton.
Reflect on the fact that it's from down south.
He's from Northampton, right?
Yeah, just drink.
What else do they? Josh Kennedy's from that way. Jamie Cripps is that way. I think they represent that area of the world very nicely. Now, we'll get a slab of beer out to him. If you want your chance to win a slab of beer, there is some opportunities to do that. Shelter FootyCast on social media, or send us an email, footycast@shelterbrewing.com.au. We have had one in this week, Skeeter. Not sure if you're going to love this one, mate, but I'll read it out to you. Hey, boys, ? Okay. Love the show, but the talk around the Swans prelim being at Homebush rather than the SCG is ridiculous. Skeet said the SCG's 48,000 person capacity is, and I quote, not quite half of Homebush. Last time I checked, Homebush is only 83,000 mark.
Yeah, so off the back of that, I'm 13,000 out. And I'm not just out on that front. They actually did play the Giants early in the season. Might have been round 1 or 2.
Yes.
And they got about 25,000.
At Homebush?
At Homebush. So they did play there this year. I wasn't quite sure what their preference. Obviously, SCG is their preference. But in terms of if Collingwood was to play in Sydney against the Swans mate, they would have got 70,000, 80,000 at a venue.
Well, this.
But anyway,
our email isn't too happy with you, mate. Secondly, the Swans earned top 4 and the right to host a prelim at the ground they have dominated at the last 3 months. Why should they have to give that up for 30,000 extra tickets, Mark Reddings?
Well, what's this bloke's name? What's his name? Hey, Jackson, Jacko, mate. Go and point that argument to Geelong, who would love to play either the grand final or the preliminary final at GMHBA with 30 or 40,000 capacity less than the G.
Let me just pause you there, Mark, because the email continues.
Oh, of course it does.
Moving the Cats from Cardinia makes sense.
Oh, of course,
Jackson says, because it couldn't host a family of 6 while it's under construction. But the Swans shouldn't have to leave their home with 50,000 seats. Also, he continues.
This sounds like my wife when I've come home late. And another thing before you go to bed, you absolute disgrace.
Also, saying there would be nothing worse than a Brisbane-Sydney grand final. Should we just forget the season and play one game a year for the 2 clubs with the most amount of members? Well, sorry for the frustration, but those 2 things just don't sit well with me. Keep up the good work, says Jackson.
Yeah, Jackson. Now keep up the throwing me under the bus. Well, Sydney and Brisbane. Let's be honest. I mean, that would have been like, Melbourne. You know what it's like, Scully. You love to have
I was with you, mate. Jacko's just put you in the crosshairs and just popped one straight through you.
I'm not sure where Jacko is, but keep them coming, Jacko, because some of those points are valid. Homebush, capacity wise, I'm 10,000 off, but let's be honest. 13,000 off. Thank you for that. 13,000 off. But 48,000 people at the SCG. If that's where they're playing all their finals from now on, that's fine. But I think Jackson needs to pull his head in. That's just a pathetic, puerile little argument. But that's okay. We'll keep your eye on you, Jackson, and I'll come looking for you, brother.
Thank you for listening, Jacko, and I appreciate the contribution because that's the most I've laughed in a little while there. If you'd like to wind up Skeeter Reddings, send us an email. Get one of those to us, footycast@shelterbrewing.com.au, because I'd love to sit here and listen to Skeet fire off shots.
I'm tired. I'm emotional. I've been talking footy for 6 hours with Sco, and it's absolutely doing my head in.
Yeah, we're done and dusted. Find us on socials, Shelter FootyCast on Instagram. Listen to us as a podcast. Watch us on YouTube. Skeeter, we got one more in us, and then you'll be off to the grand final. We got two more in us. No, we got one more in us.
One more grand final preview. We'll try and knuckle it down, break it down, have our selections, and hopefully pick a Norman Smith medal winner for you, and a bit of a weather forecast, bit of a crowd forecast, tickets, what they'll cost. If you name it, the places to go in Melbourne if you're going across, we will have it on the next Shelter FootyCast.
Get stuck into those Jats crackers.